October 3rd, 1993. What does it truly feel like when night turns into a living nightmare? When every breath could be your last, and the silence between gunshots is somehow more terrifying than the bullets themselves? That's the haunting question tied forever to General Peter Schoomaker's legacy, a man who carried both the honor and the horror of war across decades of shadowy operations. Long before he became the Army Chief of Staff, Schoomaker was deep inside the darkness of Somalia. During the infamous Battle of Mogadishu, where Task Force Ranger was swallowed by fire, chaos and walls of screaming civilians, he commanded Delta Force at that time, the sharp tip of the spear, and what he witnessed was beyond anything ordinary soldiers could describe. Picture the narrow streets filled with burning tires, the sky thick with smoke that turned day into twilight, and the crack of AK-47 fire ricocheting like a curse against the steel of helicopters falling from the sky. Men fought to drag their bleeding brothers through alleys slick with blood and dust, while RPGs howled like demons in the night, turning armored vehicles into twisted coffins. Schoomaker didn't just command. He moved within the madness, hearing the ragged gasps of soldiers choking on smoke, watching the shadows of gunmen dart across rooftops, each one a phantom threatening to snuff out what little hope remained. The date is etched into history, but the memory feels like something torn out of a nightmare. And the horror was not only in the loss of 18 Americans, but in the grotesque aftermath. Bodies dragged through the dirt, cheered by mobs, an image burned into the collective soul of every man who survived that day. Schoomaker, hardened by Vietnam and molded by decades in special operations, carried those visions in silence, the weight of command heavier than the body armor on his chest. People know him as the general who reshaped the Army after 9/11, but few ask what it took to forge that iron resolve. How many nights of Mogadishu replayed behind his closed eyes? How many whispered voices of the fallen haunted him while he built strategies for future wars? The suspense is this: can a man truly lead a nation's army without being forever scarred by the ghosts of those narrow streets? Think of it. Vietnam jungles where he first cut his teeth, then Somalia's alleys drenched in fire, then Afghanistan's endless mountains calling for vengeance after towers fell. Always the same man in the shadows, moving pieces, commanding warriors, hearing echoes of chaos. War isn't just battles. It's the horror of silence afterward, when you remember the eyes of a young private staring at you, begging not to be left behind. Peter Schoomaker knew those eyes. He carried them through every meeting, every briefing, every speech where the world only saw his stern jaw and steel gray stare. They never saw the memories. And here's the question I'll leave you with. If you stood in his boots with smoke in your lungs and screams in your ears, would you have carried the burden the same way? Or would the nightmare have swallowed you whole?